Hi everyone, welcome back to Earl Grey Books. I'm Ellie. We did very briefly have a Percy, but today I am doing the second part of my February wrap up. This was meant to go off on Monday, but I have had a bit of a bad health flare the last couple of days, and it was also my first day of uni on Monday, so I just didn't have the time to get this done. And yes, I'm doing more videos in March anyway, so I already had a video planned for today, so I could just switch those around. But we're going to jump into things. First up, we will talk a little bit about stats and February as a whole, and then we will jump into the books. So, first up, I read 24 books in total this month, which I was not planning on doing, but it happened, and I have 8 books here for this half of the month, so I definitely slowed down on this side of the month, but that's totally cool anyway. So I started the month with 208 books on my TBR. I haven't noted down how many I bought, but there was quite a lot of them. I think it was somewhere around also the 23, 24 mark. And I did unhaul 17 books, so I actually kind of did well because I ended up with -8 from the original number, so I am on 200. But I have a lot of books coming in the next few days for uni and pre-orders and things like that, so that number is going to go up. But I'm hoping this number will go briefly down to 199 before those books arrive, hopefully tonight. And I totally plan on filming that moment because it's probably the only time it's going to happen this year. So anyway, so that's that. I think I did pretty well, all things considered. I'm happy that I read this amount of books in Feb, because I don't foresee myself being able to read that much in March. Being the first month back at uni, I think it's always quite full on, and it takes a little while to get into the routine. We haven't had classes since October, so Percy is just doing zoomies over here, and he just like slid and stopped and just stared at me. So that's the meowing that you can hear, obviously. And let's get into the books. Very excited, isn't he? Are you excited for books? Cool, me too, Pess. This month was very heavy on a particular author. You will see. You'll also see a reason for that later in the month. But that author, probably surprising no one, is Sabrina Jeffries. I read the first book in this series, which is right here, Never Seduce a Scoundrel, at the first half of the month. So this is book 2, Only a Duke Will Do. So far in the series, this is my least favourite. I gave it 3.5. It wasn't bad, but it just kind of felt like it dragged towards the end, and it really felt like it could have been like 100 pages shorter, or just like a different storyline, because it was just the same thing happening again. The characters in this are from another series of Sabrina Jeffries, where they play a minor role, and so like it had already happened in that this particular like event, if that makes sense, and then it just kind of kept continuing, so it wasn't the same like time or exact event, but it was the same kind of like don't want to ruin it because the same kind of like feeling, emotion, actions, I guess is really what I'm looking for. And I was kind of like, yeah, I just want them to maybe do something else. So, but we read it, and that's good. Next up, we have Wakestone Hall by Judith Russell. This is the third book in the Stella Montgomery Intrigue series, third and final. Read the first two the earlier part of the month and got to this one, loved it. It was amazing. Yeah, I adore this series. I know it's also, now it's middle grade March, so I just want to throw it out there. If you're looking for a middle grade book, these might be kind of hard to find because they are Australian, but they're totally worth looking for, even if you can't get them for middle grade March. Highly recommend them. Okay. This is Love in a Fallen City by Eileen Chang. I did a project, or I started a project like 2 years ago now, called The Literary Witches, which is based on a tarot deck, which is back here and I'm not going to grab. But in them, there's like tarot cards of different female authors, and Eileen Chang was one of them. I kind of had this idea where I was going to pull out these authors and I was going to read them and I was going to do videos about them, and that just didn't happen. It's something I'm still interested in doing. I just kind of ran out of time back then. So I have this one, I read it, really enjoyed it. This is like short stories. I really love the narrative in the first like two. So yes, I read this kind of as part of that project, in the idea that I would read it now, and then when I have time to put it all back together, I will read this again and kind of work out how I might go about doing that video. Okay, next up, this is Fire Country by Victor Stephenson. How Indigenous fire management could help save Australia. I talked about in my end of January wrap up that I was reading a couple of books from First Nations authors, and that they would like filter into Feb, and this was the only one that I actually managed to finish. Some of the others were library books that I had to return, and another one I just didn't even get to. So that makes me sad, but I read this one. This is what the subtitle suggests. It's talking about Indigenous fire management and how that could kind of help with bushfires and that sort of thing. It also talks about it in a global context as well, with different First Nations people, so Canada, and I think he goes to Finland, I want to say it was, and it talks to the First Nations people there and so forth. It also, I really liked, there was a more personal element to this where he told kind of how he learnt about it from these two elders in his community, and kind of the education that he has tried to impart on his community and other communities in Australia and across the world. So I really like that part, probably more than the parts that actually talk about the process, because that's just not something that I particularly understand in terms of like, I don't really know what these certain trees are or these tree types. So some of the terminology was kind of lost on me, but I really like that personal side of it. Okay. I technically didn't read this one next, but we're going to talk about it next. And that is The Fire Never Goes Out, a memoir in pictures by Noelle Stevenson. I love Nimona. It's one of my favourite graphic novels. It's back here. And I saw this one at the library, and it's just a beautifully put together book, and I was like, I must borrow this. And yeah, it's literally just like little like illustrations and graphics that Noelle Stevenson has done. And yeah, it's really beautiful, and I really enjoyed it. So yes, very happy that I read that one. And then we get into these ones. So, like I said, Sabrina Jeffries dominated this second half of the month. I read Beware Scott's Revenge, Let Sleeping Rogues Lie, and Don't Bargain with the Devil, which are books 3 through 5 of this series. I loved all of these. I think this is my favourite out of these ones. This one takes place in Scotland, and I just really liked that. And also just like seeing characters that we'd seen in the previous books was just fun. These ones both take place at the school. I really enjoyed that too. I did love this one as well, and I really like this one too, but I kind of felt like everything happened at the end, and I could have done with some better pacing. I didn't manage to finish book 6, which is the final book, in Feb, but it's going to be the first one that I finish now that we're in March. And that's it for this month. I just going to wrap this up so that because I got a bunch of videos to film today and class. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you guys on Friday. I think I'm talking about middle grade March, kind of in a way. I'm not really sure how the video is going to pan out yet, but I'm going to go and film it now. So I'll see you all then. Bye.